The mass shooting in Monterey Park, California over the weekend is the deadliest in the U.S. since the massacre in Uvalde, Texas last May, when 19 children and 2 teachers were killed. There have been at least 33 mass shootings in the U.S. so far this year, and it's still only January. That's according to the Gun Violence Archive, which defines a mass shooting as at least 4 people injured or killed. By that calculation, there were 648 mass shootings in the country last year. And even though that was down just slightly from 2021, that's nearly double the number recorded 5 years ago when there were 336. And according to Pew Research, gun murders in particular have climbed sharply in recent years. The 19,384 gun murders that took place in 2020 were the most since at least 1968, exceeding the previous peak in 1993. The 2020 total represented a 34% increase from the year before, a 49% increase over 5 years, and 75% increase over 10 years. Major metropolitan areas also saw increases in murders last year. For example, in 2022, Washington, D.C. recorded back-to-back years with 200 murders for the first time in nearly 20 years. And suffice it to say, there are developed countries that don't have this problem, Joe.
Well,
and yet we can't find agreement.
Well, most. You look at the numbers and compare for developed countries, Western developed countries. Nobody comes close to the rate of the number of people killed per 100,000 per capita, as is the case here in America. These numbers are unbelievable. And by the way, again, I don't have to tell anybody that watches the show regularly, I don't want to ban guns. I'm a gun guy. I have several guns. I'm comfortable around guns. I've grown up in gun cultures. I've grown up in Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Florida. I've grown up. I get it. I get it. But I don't get this. I don't get when murders by guns go up 50% in the past 5 years. Republicans want to do nothing about it. I don't get how when murders by guns go up 75% over the past 10 years, 75% over the past 10 years, Republicans want to do nothing about it. Now, why am I saying Republicans? Because I try not to point out, I'll say like MAGA Republicans or Trump. No. Here, it's the Republican Party that, other than the 10 senators that stepped in and actually tried to pass some meaningful positive breakthroughs in gun safety laws, the proliferation of guns continue. The shootings continue to explode. And Mike, this is, of course, not about left-wing culture. This is not about banning guns, which is the false choice, the stupid choice that people are always given, because that's the only way they can allow these companies continue to make the millions and millions of dollars to make manufacturing guns. They have to say they're coming to take all your guns. Well, no, we just want some gun safety laws that allow universal background checks, that stop crazy people from getting guns, that stop people from under 21 from getting guns and then going to schools and shooting them up. But this isn't about some left-wing conspiracy. This is about data that points to a tragic epidemic of gun violence, gun murders specifically, that keeps exploding in this country. Again, Mike, gun violence has gone up 50%, according to Pew, over the past 5 years. Not violence. Did I say violence? Let me fix that. Murders from guns up 50% over the past 5 years, up 75% over the past 10 years. And you look at that number, about 19,500 people killed by guns last year. Guess what? Mike, that's like what? 1, 2, 3. That's almost 5 times as many people who were killed by gunfire in the United States of America last year than who died in the Iraq War. Let me say that again. More Americans died here at home than died fighting in the Iraq War. In fact, almost 5 times as many Americans died here last year than died from 2003 to 2010 fighting in the Iraq War.
Joe, we've been here 15 years. 15 years of mornings when we've come in to go to work and talked about mass shootings. How many of them? Thousands, I would estimate. 15 years of doing this. 15 years of watching senseless murders on street corners, in dance halls, in schools, a lot of them in schools. 15 years worth. And so here we are with the refusal of many members of the Congress and many members of different state legislatures to answer a simple question, a simple yes or no question. And the question would be, if you had the chance with a casting of your vote in your legislature, state or federal, if you had the chance to save a life by casting a vote, would you cast that vote? Yes or no? None of the stuff, they're coming to take your guns. Nobody's coming to take anyone's gun. No one. It's not in any piece of legislation any sensible piece of legislation I've ever seen, and I think you'd probably agree with me. They refuse to answer the question. So it comes down to this. All of these mass murders, the root of it are clearly mental illness, criminality, other psychological disturbances, but cowardice as well, political cowardice at a lot of different levels in state houses and especially in the United States Congress. Pure cowardice. And so we continue 15 years after we began here in Morning Joe, announcing another mass murder, this time in California, and guaranteed either later this week or next week or whenever we'll be reporting another.
Just think about this chilling statistic, Jonathan Lemire. Since the Sandy Hook shooting, when America was supposed to be awakened, since the Sandy Hook shooting, murders by guns have gone up 75% in America.
This is a uniquely American story and a uniquely American tragedy. Mike is right. It is relentless, these headlines of mass shootings. And yes, let's give some credit. There was a modest gun proposal, bipartisan gun legislation that went through Congress last year. It was bipartisan in nature. It barely scratched the surface. There so much more would need to be done. It is a culture of not just a culture of guns, but a culture of shootings. That is something that is a part of the American identity right now. And the location changes, the city changes, the circumstances of the shooting changes a little, but they all come back to the same thing, a weapon that can take many lives in a matter of seconds. And, you know, there was a heroes yesterday who presented further tragedy, and let's salute them. But this is an all too familiar headline, and one right now there is no momentum for any sort of other gun legislation in the Congress. There will be more of these stories in the days ahead.
Yeah, despite the fact, Mika, that 90% of Americans want universal background checks. And again, I keep talking about how Republicans keep losing the suburbs, how Republicans keep losing swing voters, how Republicans keep losing these elections because they're out of step. This is just one more brick in the wall.
It's adding up for them.
It's one more brick in the wall because, again, there are a lot of people that say, well, wait a second, gun control is not popular. No, this isn't gun control. This is about gun safety. And the world has changed. When you have 75% more people getting killed by guns,
It's like responding to an epidemic.
Than 10 years ago. This is an epidemic that's on the rise. Now, Republicans in the House, the NRA, others may want to deny that this epidemic continues to explode. The numbers are there and people feel it. They feel it in their neighborhoods. They feel it on the streets. They feel it in their schools. They feel it when they wake up and get their kids ready to go to school in the morning. They feel it. And at some point, Republicans are going to, at some point it'll happen. At some point, Republicans are going to have to go along with the 90% of Americans who want universal background checks, far-sweeping red flag laws, and other basic gun safety measures to protect our children and to protect churchgoers, to protect people that go to country music festivals in Las Vegas from being gunned down, just like they're sitting targets. It's disgusting.